Welcome to Deep Dive. We're digging into a really significant policy change today. It's coming from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and honestly, this is going to fundamentally reshape things for a lot of people. We're talking about home ownership eligibility, specifically for non-permanent residents. Think high-skilled workers, engineers, doctors, researchers here on temporary visas. So our goal today, our mission in this deep dive, is to unpack HUD's new rule. It's called Mortgagee Letter 2025-09, or ML 2025-09 for short. We want to explain clearly what it means for you, especially if you hold an H-1B visa or you're on optional practical training, OPT. What are the immediate consequences?
Right. And to really get the importance of this, we need to talk about FHA loans first. What role do they even play? The Federal Housing Administration, FHA, designed these loans to, well, open the door to homeownership for more people. Historically, they've been crucial for first-time buyers, folks with moderate incomes, mainly because they offer, much lower down payments, sometimes just 3.5%, and their credit standards are generally more flexible than what you'd find with a conventional bank loan.
Okay, so FHA loans are basically the main tool making homeownership possible if you don't have, say, 20% saved up for a down payment.
Exactly. And the policy before this big change, which was laid out in Mortgage Letter 2021-12.
2021-12, got it.
Yeah, that one was pretty inclusive, intentionally so. Non-permanent residents, NPRs is the term they use, so H-1B holders, people on OPT, even DACA recipients, they were eligible for FHA loans.
They were eligible, so what do they need to show? It wasn't just automatic, right?
Oh, no, definitely not automatic. There were specific criteria. Lenders had to verify, first, their lawful presence in the U.S., and second, that they had valid employment authorization that was expected to continue. Plus, they had to prove the house would be their primary residence, their main home.
And the lender needed to feel confident about their job stability, too, I imagine.
Yes, exactly. Often things like having previous visa renewals help show that continued work eligibility.
Okay, so that sounds pretty reasonable. If you were here legally, working, paying taxes, stable, you could potentially access this path to homeownership.
That was the idea. Recognize the contributions of lawfully present non-citizens.
So what changed? How did HUD redraw the lines with this new rule, ML 2025-09?
Well, they didn't just redraw the lines, they essentially erased them for this group. ML 2025-09, which came out March 26, 2025, explicitly removes all FHA eligibility for non-permanent residents. Full stop.
All eligibility. Wow. So what's the reason they gave? Did they state why such a drastic change?
They did. And the language is quite telling. The document says HUD is, and I'm quoting here, reaffirmed its commitment to safeguarding economic opportunities for U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. And it goes on to say federal benefits should be reserved for individuals who hold lawful permanent resident status.
So they're explicitly tying this housing benefit, which is usually about economic stability, directly to permanent immigration status. That feels like a major departure from FHA's traditional mission.
It absolutely is. It's basically using housing policy as a tool for immigration status enforcement, which is, well, it's new territory for FHA in this way.
So who is eligible now? Who's left?
The list is very short now. It's U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, so green card holders and citizens of the COFA nations.
COFA nations, that's Micronesia, Palau, the Marshall Islands.
That's right. Those three nations have specific treaties, compacts of free association with the U.S.
So that inclusion isn't about standard immigration rules. It's a foreign policy thing.
Exactly. It's a carve-out based on those specific agreements. But the really critical part is that the entire section in the FHA handbook that used to guide lenders on how to process loans for non-permanent residents, it's just been deleted.
Gone completely. Okay, so let's talk impact. This isn't just symbolic. A lot of these visa holders are high earners in key sectors. Do we know how many people this might affect?
It's tough to get exact, super recent numbers, but based on past estimates, H-1B and other skilled visa holders were likely accessing, hundreds of millions, maybe even billions in FHA loans each year.
Billions, wow.
Yeah, it's not a tiny fringe group. This removes a significant pool of qualified, economically active borrowers from the FHA market. It's a big shift for lenders, too.
Okay, and the timeline is crucial here. What's the effective date? If I'm an H-1B worker who was planning on using an FHA loan, how urgent is this?
Extremely urgent. The rule is mandatory for any FHA case number assigned on or after May 25, 2025.
May 25th, that's the cutoff.
That's the hard cutoff. You need that FHA case number assigned before that date. That means your lender has to get the application submitted and accepted into the FHA system by then to qualify under the old rules.
So if you're house hunting right now, You're basically in a sprint against the clock.
Absolutely. A desperate race.
Let's break down the practical consequences then. For someone on an H-1B or OPT who misses that deadline, or maybe they were just starting to plan, what exactly do they lose access to?
The biggest loss, the one that hurts the most, is that low down payment option. That 3.5% minimum is gone for them.
Okay, so what are their alternatives? Where do they turn now?
They have to pivot to other types of financing. Primarily, that means conventional loans, the kind backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, or maybe portfolio loans or even non-QM loans.
Can you quickly explain portfolio and non-QM? Those terms might be new to some listeners.
Sure. Conventional loans usually require higher down payments, often 10 to 20%. Portfolio loans are loans a bank decides to keep on its own books instead of selling. Because the bank holds the risk, they often set stricter rules and might still demand a large down payment.
And non-QM?
Non-qualified mortgages, or non-QM, are loans that don't meet the standard government criteria, often because of unique income situations, or in this case, potentially residency status factors used in underwriting. Lenders keep these too, but because they're non-standard, they usually come with higher interest rates and fees for the borrower.
So the bottom line for all these alternatives is more money down, stricter rules.
Pretty much. Higher credit scores are usually needed, significantly more cash for the down payment, easily 10, 15, 20% instead of 3.5. And the income documentation requirements can be much more rigorous too.
So if you'd saved, say, $20,000 thinking that covered your 3.5% down payment on a modest home, suddenly you might need $60,000, $80,000, maybe even $100,000 just to get in the game with a conventional loan, especially in expensive areas.
Precisely. It's a massive jump in the cash required upfront.
And this is going to disproportionately impact people in those high-cost areas where many H-1B and OPT professionals work, right? Silicon Valley, Seattle, Austin, Boston, New York.
Absolutely. Housing affordability is already a crisis in those tech hubs. Asking for a 20% down payment there can eliminate almost any first-time buyer, let alone someone navigating this rule change. These are often essential workers in tech, in healthcare, research.
It also brings up a fairness issue, doesn't it, when you connect it to the green card situation. Many H-1B workers have been living here illegally, working, paying taxes for years, sometimes waiting a decade or more for a green card because of huge backlogs.
That's a critical point. They're stable, long-term residents in almost every way except their permanent immigration status paperwork.
So they're being excluded from this housing benefit, not because they aren't reliable or financially sound, but because the immigration system itself is slow.
Exactly. It feels like they're being penalized by proxy. HUD is using a housing program metric permanent residency that is largely outside the control of these individuals due to systemic immigration delays. They're contributing fully, but being denied a key tool for building stability.
How has the industry reacted? I mean, this affects real estate agents, lenders, the housing market itself.
Yeah, there's been significant concern voiced. Groups like the National Association of Realtors, NOREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, they've pushed back.
What's their main argument?
Their core point is that this policy is counterproductive. It shrinks the pool of qualified buyers, which could actually hurt housing demand and potentially destabilize markets in those key areas where these workers live. And it penalizes lawfully present workers that U.S. employers clearly need.
So they see it as maybe hurting the economy and overstepping HUD's role.
That seems to be the gist. They argue housing policy and immigration enforcement should ideally be separate. The National Immigration Forum also weighed in, expressing concern that this makes the U.S. less attractive for global talent, especially when combined with those long green card waits. They see it as undermining the legal immigration system.
Okay, let's bring it back to the listener. If you are a non-permanent resident, maybe on an H-1B or OPT, and you are planning to buy a home, what should you be doing right now, especially with that May 25th deadline looming?
Okay, immediate action is key. First, if you're already in the process with a lender for an FHA loan, you need to be working with them nonstop. Make sure they understand the urgency to get that FHA case number assigned before May 25th, miss that date, and the application under FHA rules is dead.
Step 1, intense follow-up with your lender if you're already moving.
Right. Second, if you haven't started, or you know you won't make that deadline, you have to pivot immediately. Start researching conventional mortgages, talk to different lenders, maybe look into community lending programs or credit unions, but be prepared for those higher down payment requirements. Start figuring out how you'll find that extra cash, maybe 7% to 17% more of the home price.
Okay, pivot to alternatives and plan for a much bigger down payment. Anything else?
Yes. Third, keep an eye on the policy situation. While the rule is in effect now, these industry groups and immigration advocates are likely looking at legal challenges or ways to get administrative relief. The long-term outlook might change, but you can't bank on that right now. The immediate need is financial adjustment.
So wrapping this up, what's the big picture takeaway here? It feels like this policy really changes the understanding between the U.S. and its skilled, legal, temporary workforce.
I think that's right.
Homeownership is such a key part of building wealth, integrating into a community.
And this rule effectively puts it much further out of reach for thousands of people who are already here, working, paying taxes, but are stuck waiting on a separate government process. The climb just got a lot steeper and a lot more expensive for them.
That sums it up well. So just to recap briefly, as we discussed, the new HUD rule, Mortgagee Letter 2025-09, essentially cuts off FHA home loan access for temporary visa holders like those on H-1B and OPT. This takes effect for FHA case numbers assigned on or after May 25, 2025. This reserves the FHA program primarily for U.S. citizens and green card holders. For everyone else affected, it means shifting towards conventional loans, which typically demand much higher down payments and stricter qualifying criteria, significantly raising the barrier to owning a home.
All the best, and we'll meet again with another important matter again.